What is up, my friends? Welcome to episode 30 of the Whole Health with Rob Carney Podcast. And on this episode, we have the Mushroom Revival crew. Alex Dorr is back alongside his partner Lera, and they're here to talk about all things mushrooms. So it's crazy to think that the last time Alex and I did a podcast together was about a year ago. So Alex is here to share all the changes that have happened in this past year with Mushroom Revival, all the improvements and advancements they've made in both their business and products. And Lera shares her story and a lot of the great perspectives that she brings to the table, her experience with mushrooms, and all the great things that they're doing to work together to create the best customer experience for you. And here we talk about a lot of the benefits of mushrooms, a lot of the great things they're doing for the environment, for our human health, and in particular, we discuss the Reishi mushroom. And Reishi is a great adaptogenic mushroom that is great for stress reduction, great for helping with relaxation, really helps me with sleep. And so it's known as the mushroom of immortality in Chinese medicine. And, I can definitely say if I'm going to recommend one mushroom to most people, it's going to be the reishi mushroom. So you can get the reishi mushroom and very much more at mushroomrevival.com and use the discount code wholehealth and you'll save 15% on your every single order. So I'm super excited for you to meet Lera. I'm excited for Alex to be back. And I'm excited for you to hear this conversation about Mushroom Revival, where it's going, what it is, and all the great ways that they're supporting both the people and the planet. Enjoy. All right, my friends, welcome to this episode of the Whole Health with Rob Carney Podcast. And we have our friends from Mushroom Revival here. We have Alex Dorr and we have Lera. So Alex has been on the podcast before. If you haven't seen that episode, check that out. I'll put the link in the description here. And this is Lera's first time on the podcast. So welcome to both of you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
It's always a good time with you. I'm glad. It's been a while, we were just talking, it's been a year. So lots of changes. It's 2020 is the year of massive change for everyone in the whole world. It's a weird time. It's a roller coaster for sure.
It is. I think a weird time is an understatement. So I'd love to, you two have really done a great job of pivoting during this time, which I think is, it's all that we really can do is do the best we can given the circumstances that are at hand with us. So as you mentioned, and we said before, it's been a year since we did our podcast together. So a lot has changed in your world. A lot has changed in the world of Mushroom Revival. So I'd love to just start with, what has happened in the past year with Mushroom Revival? What have been the growth, the adaptations, all the cool stuff that's happened from October of 2019 until September of 2020?
Well, we're no longer in Western Mass. We're in Texas now, which is great. We love it.
It's super warm. It's funny because we endured a long winter in Western Mass, and then now we endured a long hot summer in Texas. So we got double bad season. But now we're in the long haul. We're in the good times ahead. But we made a lot of changes, and it's funny because a lot of the changes that we're going to make were pre-COVID, and it just happened to be in line with what was going on in the world. And just to circle back, if anyone has never heard of Mushroom Revival or didn't catch the first episode, we're a functional mushroom company, and we are absolutely obsessed with mushrooms. We think they're the coolest thing in the world, and they offer so many keys to unlock so many problems in our world. Pretty much anything you can think of, they have the answer. So that's why we're so obsessed. I got into mushrooms because they helped me recover from a couple of diseases that I had. And so we want to spread that word and to educate around mushrooms. And so in the past year, we're about 2.5 years old. And so in the past year, we've moved to Austin, Texas, as we were talking about. We kind of are focusing we have a bullseye. So we had, 10 plus, 12 plus products in all different sizes. And so for the average person who's coming to our website, first introduction to us, they're like, oh, there's 2 different products for energy. What size do I pick? It's
we
hard.
have 36 products, and now we have 4.
It's hard for the average person. So we wanted to, it was kind of an eye-opening experience. I went to this business 101, kind of an accelerated program. And most of the people in the group were excited for the business model, but they didn't know anything about mushrooms. And I, experienced a lot of people like that, but to really focus on the business for, I think it was 12, 16 weeks or something like that. And to really talk, 24/7 with people and interview people. And I was like, wow, the 99.9% of people in the world have no idea about mushrooms. So we have to keep it simple, stupid, and really help bridge the gap, because that's what's necessary. Me and Lera are so obsessed with mushrooms that it's, sometimes we get the horse blinders on and we geek out. We go into deep, deep rabbit holes, which is great for us. We love to geek out about it, but for a lot of times we leave people behind. And so this next phase of our business, this transformation is to bring people on board, and to really build that solid, easy to cross bridge for people to enter the world of mushrooms and to kind of drop their mycophobia. So redoing our packaging, redoing our website, redoing our whole way on how we educate, and redoing our products. So making 4 products that are super easy, one for energy, one for brain support, one for relaxation, and one is like a multivitamin, kind of all of it, whole system health.
I think that was really key too, is like changing the language behind it. So instead of selling cordyceps and lion's mane and reishi, like lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, what are those? But actually like branding it and changing the biggest word to be energy or relaxation, like things that people are familiar with and already look for on the shelves. And yeah, it's just so much more approachable. It'll be good.
Yeah, and one thing I think that Alex, when we had talked a few weeks ago, is like, it's that whole paralysis by analysis. When there's so many options out there, that someone like the three of us, I look at those ingredients and I say, I want all 36 of those in my body.
Right.
But to someone who is, as you said, learning about this stuff, just diving into the world of whether it's mushrooms, adaptogens, herbs, holistic health in general, it's easy to see all these options and be like, I'll think about it later. And then they never come back to it. So I definitely think, as a business model, it makes a lot of sense that sometimes simplifying is the best way to go. And, so with that being said, I want to know, Lera, because, we haven't asked you this question. I've asked Alex before, but what is your favorite mushroom in the world? It could be, anything on the planet. Could be the classic button mushroom, could be cordyceps, lion's mane. I want to hear favorite, or you can go top 3 if you got a few.
Yeah, I think picking some top ones would be a lot easier. But right off the bat, I love like all of the super gelatinous ones. So one of my favorite medicinals that we work with is tremella. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's also called the snow fungus, and it's super transparent and like squishy. A cousin of that is witch's butter, which is found all over Mass. It's like this orange kind of gooey stuff you see on the tree. And you can even find it up until December, which is pretty great. But that one's really fun. It helps with hydration, bone health, brain, lots of stuff. So tremella, I don't remember the first part of the Latin name, but it's called cat's tongue. And the last Latin binomial is gelatinosum. That one's just super fun to feel and touch. I've only ever found it in the Northeast. And it does feel like if you filled a cat's tongue like full of pudding. It's so great. And it's actually made an appearance in Miriam C. Rice's book all about pigments and mushroom paper and dyes and myco sticks. She basically makes like these pastel sticks out of powdered mushrooms and cat's tongue, because it can hold enough moisture, and then when you add the pigment, I haven't actually tried it unfortunately, but you get a result like the texture and workability like a pastel stick. So that's pretty great. And then obviously anything entomopathogenic, like militaris is the one I know best, just because I spent almost 2 years farming it and growing it and loving it and consuming it. So of course it's.
And for anyone not familiar with the cordyceps she's talking about.
Yeah, Cordyceps militaris.
Mushrooms that attack bugs and grow out of their heads.
Right.
But there's so many other cordyceps that I'm fascinated by. So unilateralis, of course, that's the fungus that makes an appearance in The Last of Us. And it's kind of like the textbook cordyceps that people know of when they watch BBC and other nature documentaries. So all of those are fantastic.
It's the one that grows out of ants' heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And then reishi, gosh, I just have the longest experience with reishi. That was the one that first got me into medicinal functional mushrooms in general. And yeah, we recently obtained a multiple reishi heads, which is great. I personally like this side better, the back side, the underside.
I like the red side.
Alex likes the other side.
I like the red side. I'm with you.
I'll like send them up, and then she'll flip them over, and I'll flip them back.
Yeah, but reishi is amazing. It really helped me work with hormone imbalance, and this started happening like right around puberty, of course. And it was also the first mushroom that I ever grew. I just bought a grow kit offline, and it is also the mycomaterial queen, which I'm so into. I mean, I studied sculpture and design in school, so seeing this mushroom come into that space and outperform any other fungus, it's amazing. And I have so much love and excitement for its role in society in the next decade or two, beyond just functional mushroom medicine.
Awesome. I love that. So that just kind of brought me up to a question. So yesterday I watched a documentary about David Avocado Wolf. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he was saying that his favorite mushroom is chaga. If he could only take one mushroom for his optimal health, he would take chaga. So I'd like to hear from you two. If you could only take, I know this is a tough question, if you could only take one mushroom for the rest of your life to improve your health, strictly health benefits, which one would you choose? And we'll start with you, Alex.
Personally, I would take Cordyceps militaris. For the average person, I would recommend reishi. And reishi, Ganoderma lucidum is called the 10,000-year mushroom of immortality. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the list of benefits is, it's through the roof. And as a society, especially in the modern world, if we live in cities, if we're stressed out, which most people are, they're bombarded by stimulus, it's an incredible adaptogen, and it helps to modulate your immune system and also just help with daily stress. And that's super, super important, help with sleep. So I think it can have the most benefit on so many people's lives. Lion's mane is also a good one for brain health, which there's not that many nootropics. With cordyceps, helps with energy, but you can get energy with coffee. It tends to have a negative impact in the long run, but there's many other ways that people can find energy where a nootropic or a brain support, it's hard to find, really. And then at the same token, that the really well-rounded adaptogen that reishi is, it's hard to find, and it's such a beautiful, powerful mushroom. So I'd say for the average person, I would take reishi and live for 10,000 years.
I love it.
I concur with you, Alex, but for me personally, I would probably take reishi, definitely.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely feel exactly like you said. Like, adaptogens are so incredibly valuable nowadays that, like, when people are asking me, like, oh, where should I start in terms of mushroom revival, I say just start with reishi, because most people, as you said, are overstressed, they're not sleeping well, and just like you said, most people are addicted to caffeine anyway. So adding a little cordyceps, they may not even see that much of a difference because they're so overstimulated that it's gonna be hard to notice that difference. Whereas with reishi, if you're having all the stress and it's being removed, that's a much more noticeable effect. And so, for me, I like to take cordyceps in the morning. I like to take reishi before bed. For something like this, I'll take some lion's mane. So those are kind of my big three. I'll do like a, morning cordyceps, midday lion's mane, evening reishi. And, sometimes I'll take lion's mane, kind of here and there just to spice it up. But But yeah, I think it is important to recognize, every individual is so different, and that basically, kind of matching, like that's kind of what I do. Is I feel like I'm a matchmaker of, holistic products. It's like, all right, so you have this challenge, so I'm going to recommend this. And if you have that challenge, I'm going to recommend then. It's easy to make a blanket statement and say, oh, everyone should, take a multivitamin. It's like, well, we all have different needs. I think that's where mushrooms, because they are functional, they are adaptogenic, that they can really morph into whatever the person needs, which is, pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love reishi as well, because there's a famous quote. I can't remember who said it, so apologies, but it's in this society, we have hot heads and cold hearts. And what we really need is cool heads and warm hearts.
Love that.
And I think reishi is, a perfect ally in that process.
Absolutely. So with that, I want to circle back, because usually I start with sharing everyone's story. So Alex, we've heard your story before. Again, if you have not heard Alex's story, please check out our first podcast. But Lera, I know about you, but I don't know your whole story, and our audience, I don't think, knows your story. So I'd love for you to share, what got you interested in health, holistic health, what got you interested in mushrooms, and what kind of got you interested in the whole entrepreneurial side of things.
So in chronological events, the mushrooms came first, then the health, then the entrepreneurship. I graduated from college in 2016, and it's like super bummed. I went to KU at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas, and I originally wanted to study mycology or something related, and just wasn't satisfied with the curriculums that they offered. So I totally took a 180 and ended up getting a degree in linguistics and sculpture. So I have a dual major. And yeah, I graduated, was like, you know what? I got to give these mushrooms another shot somehow. So I got a job on a farm, started off volunteering, and then eventually started working in their lab space, got Mycelium running, got radical mycology, used the YouTube university that it is to learn as much as I could, and was scouring the internet for some kind of advanced course in microremediation, which is the thing I was super into at the time. This was in 2018.
And can you define what microremediation is, just for anyone listening?
Definitely. So it's the cleaning up of toxic waste with fungi. So remediating with fungus related organisms. And yeah, at first I was so captivated by this science and thought, holy shit, this is the answer. Mushrooms are going to save the world, and wanted to give it my all to support any researchers in the Americas that were doing it. Very little. But I did find an advanced course in microremediation that was in New York, put on by Co-Renewal. And that's where I met Alex. He was one of the instructors, and he taught a myco yoga class at 8 a.m. That was one of the things on the schedule, and I was the only person that showed up. One other person did eventually come 15 minutes into it, but yeah, it was just...
And that's when we knew.
Yeah. But it's true. We instantly clicked, and he mentioned he was hiring, and I was like, yeah, definitely. When can I start? Went home, looked on Craigslist for some sort of housing opportunity that was month to month, just to feel it out, because it's about to drive halfway across the country from Kansas City to Western Massachusetts to work for this mushroom kid that I just met. And I'm like, what am I getting myself into? But you grow cordyceps. And I honestly didn't even know that we could cultivate it in the Americas, as easily as it was being cultivated. So I was just so excited, ready to just pack my stuff and go. And I did. I had a Honda Civic, fit as much crap as I could in there, and then took off. And October 3rd, 2018 was the first day. Yeah, I've been working for Alex and Mushroom Revival since. I started off doing mostly farmhand stuff, because we were really cultivation heavy at that time. We were spending all of our time growing, optimizing the grow up, packing and selling the dried cordyceps mushrooms, and then making tincture from them. and very little doing with orders and like customer service, social media, any marketing, education, none of that. It was like all farm stuff, which I loved. I was really geeking out about. I was in the lab like 7 of the 8 hours that I was working, and learned so much, because any cultivator knows that if they've tried cordyceps, just how different it is from every other functional or culinary mushroom that we grow around here. So it was a challenge, because, you know, I'd gotten really comfortable with shiitakes and reishi and lion's mane and all sorts of typical culinary cultivars. And yeah, cordyceps was quite a challenge. It was also really wacky to see, because it's this bright orange mushroom that looks like Cheetos coming from a glass jar, which I had never grown in. And like everything about it was beautiful and different. And yeah, I was so enthralled with developing this. So we've had many farmhands between my first day and the time that we finally left South Deerfield. And during that time, like, we were just trying to develop a better way to cultivate bigger scale. When I first got there, it was easy. We could grow in jars and satisfy the orders accordingly. But as we started growing, it was just not the way. It was way too tedious. Jars are foolproof, they're beautiful, but as soon as harvest day comes around, it is like you feel like the biggest idiot ever, because you're looking at this whole fruiting room full of like 15,000 jars and like 4 pairs of hands. It was so slow, and so many jars broke. It was just, yeah, it was rough. And I remember the webbing between my fingers, between my pinky and my ring finger, got like so sore from sticking my hands into the jar. And like I couldn't fit my whole hand, but I could fit these 3 in my thumb, right? So I'd go in and get the cakes, and yeah, it was great. But that was when it clicked that we needed to go back to bins. And we had tried this before and failed miserably. So anyway, long story short, I think we spent just over a year working on a commercial cultivation tech. And it's funny, because the commercial cordyceps cultivation that's actually happening in Thailand and a lot of the other cordyceps heavy parts of the world, they are doing it in jars. A lot of them are.
Well, the smaller scale, but yeah, once you get to massive farms in China, they're growing in big bins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is something I've been trying for years, and just, you know, I couldn't do it by myself. So, you know, it's great having you come on board, and then Alan and some other people to give some different thoughts. And we probably tried everything, every different combination, and we finally got it, and it's great. So, you know, this is just a way that we can get more cordyceps for less amount of time to more people, because it's really pricey, because they're so hard to grow that we have to raise the price. And, you know, people just getting into cordyceps, it's like, whoa, that's a huge price tag for a little bit of natural energy. I don't know if I want to get into that. And so our goal was to really revolutionize the culture around mushrooms in the States, and to really bring that technique, and also the low price, affordable price. It's not really low, it's affordable, or more affordable than it was, to the average Joe, so they can try it out for themselves and see the benefits without breaking the bank.
Yeah. And it worked. We locked in a method that was awesome. We had a great flow. It was 0 waste, which I was really proud of. And we made a whole YouTube video on it. So if anybody wants to see that method, just type in commercial cordyceps cultivation mushroom revival, will pop up. And it's kind of like a short documentary. It's like 28 to 30 minutes of cultivation advice.
Or if you just want to see, you know, if you're a grower, check it out and you'll get the instructions. But if you just want to see our operation and see how we farm cordyceps, it's kind of a cool video. You could watch it in fast motion, just to kind of get
definitely.
time lapse.
Well, I want to kind of dive into, Mushroom Revival as a brand because, I'm someone who is always looking for the best brands out there. I'm looking for, there's so many brands out there for every sort of supplement, superfood, you name it. There's hundreds, probably thousands of different brands out there. So I want to know what makes Mushroom Revival different than, the run-of-the-mill mushroom brand. What makes you stand out? Why are your products so effective and so potent in their medicine?
I think number one is we're incredibly obsessed with mushrooms. As you can tell, we go down rabbit holes where, a lot of nutraceutical or vitamin companies have no relationship to their ingredients. They've never farmed anything or grown or even seen it or anything. They have or the chemistry around it. It's just another, supplement that they're selling, which is fine and great, but what makes us stand out is that this is our life purpose. We eat, sleep, breathe mushrooms, and we've done it. The farm that we're talking about, it was the biggest and only certified in the Americas, certified organic. And we got our hands dirty. So one big factor that sets us apart is that we use actual mushrooms. And there's this weird phenomenon in the United States, nowhere else really in the world, where quote unquote mushroom farmers will grow something called mycelium, which is the roots of the mushroom. It's not actually the mushroom. It's the roots, this white filamentous kind of web-like structure, and they'll grow that on grains, whether it's oats or rice or wheat berries or something like that. And they'll dry it out and blend it into a powder. And the final product is about 90% that rice or the oats, and only about 10% the roots of the mushroom. Now, what does that mean? It means it's diluted, it's watered down. And also, if it was just 100% the roots of the mushroom, it has less medicinal compounds that we're looking for. And we've done so many tests, and we're doing so many more of sending our products to the lab, doing a comparison. And there's so many, peer-reviewed scientific articles that you can look online where it's up to 400 times weaker in terms of the main medicinal compounds at the same price, or even more expensive. There's products on the market that are more than 400 times weaker than ours that are actually selling more expensive than ours. And it's unfortunate. And, it's one thing to sell that. It's the other thing to falsely label. And so that's what we see a lot of times. And not only mushrooms, but in supplements in general is, it's because it's loosely regulated by the FDA. We get a lot of kind of sketchy companies bending the rules and cutting corners, which is really unfortunate. And it comes back to the consumer to really be a smart, educated, vigilant consumer. And if you're going to spend money, especially as a supplement, they're expensive. So get the best bang for your buck. And so these companies will label their products mushrooms when they're really not. It's like selling an apple pie when all that's in the pie is the roots of an apple tree and branches and leaves and stuff. It's like, whoa.
And then saying you're going to get like a bunch of pectin or something that the apple in specific is concentrated in.
Yeah, there's a bunch of apples in there, organic apples. It's like, no, those literally are not apples. So that's what's happening in the mushroom space is companies calling it mushrooms. And for the average person, they're not educated in that. Like, most listeners can identify the difference between an apple and a branch. But when I say mushroom and mycelium, most people just shrug their shoulders, and the regulators as well, they're like, same thing. So it's really about education. And so that's where we're different. And also our extraction methods, we are scientists. So we want to constantly improve our extraction methods so they're more bioavailable to the body. And all that being said, we're constantly finding ways to increase the potency of our products and the bioavailability. So every dollar that you're spending, you're getting the most bang for your buck. And why? From a pure capitalist perspective, if I put on the capitalist hat, I would cut corners and to make it as cheap for me as possible, to increase the most amount of profits. But for me, coming from having Lyme disease, having depression, anxiety, and using mushrooms to self-cure myself, to totally revolutionize my life and health, I want the same for other people. I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that our products can cure, diagnose, treat any disease or illness, but I want people to feel healthy and to feel fucking good, just like I did, because it's coming from a deeply personal place. And so that's what stands us out is our deep passion and care. And that goes through our education as well. We have our own podcast, Mushroom Revival Podcast, and just find a lot of joy bridging that gap as I was talking about before, and just like constantly like, how can I get people totally as obsessed as we are about mushrooms, and to get over that fear of, ew, mushrooms are slimy, they're gross, they're kind of stinky, they're poisonous, they'll make me trip out and lose my mind, there's toads, sitting on them, and they're covered in poop or whatever. The idea is, to bridge that gap and to have people, I've talked to really straight edge, like business people and lawyers and like all these people that you would never think would be into mushrooms. And they had a serious health problem, and they tried functional mushrooms and totally revitalized their health. And they're like gung-ho, or famous celebrities, actresses, actors and things like that. It gives me hope. And beyond mushrooms, it's that connection to the natural world, which we're so lacking, and connection to our food, connection to herbs and other kingdoms. Fungi is a separate kingdom. It's not a plant. It's not a vegetable. And so people, like bacteria is becoming to be a hit, like good bacteria in your gut. Like, it's all about bacteria, baby. Like that's it. Like we're mostly other bacteria. And so to kind of make it sexy and to highlight, it's not only about humans, it's not only about plants. There's these other kingdoms of massive amounts of organisms and biodiversity that's so helpful it's 2020. There's shit's hitting the fan every day. I'm reading the news. It's like, and almost every time I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh, mushrooms can help with that. Mushrooms can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
Mushrooms can help with that. And beyond mushrooms, it's like bacteria and this animal and the plants, and to really sit in our, symbiosis as a whole with the entire ecosystem around us and the entire universe around us. It's to set in that space of, we're all one, we're all in this together, and let's form an allyship with the world around us.
I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of great points you touched on there, and I think the latest one you said is it's a symbiotic relationship. Is that we can't separate one aspect of life from another, and I think that's a big challenge with isolating things and trying to make things separate. But the way I view the world in terms of living organisms, our mushrooms are the glue that tie everything together. I mean, the way our plants work, our trees are growing, yeah, they may grow without mushrooms, but they grow infinitely better with the help of mycelium, where they're exchanging nutrients, exchanging information. And it really is this symbiotic relationship that everything comes together with the mushrooms. So I kind of view mushrooms as the glue of our planet, especially our soil health, our plant health, everything as a whole. And another point that you touched on is, people are always looking to, cheap is better, cheap, 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 cheap. But then I see people trying to save $5 on a different supplement. But for example, I was looking, there's a magnesium that I work with from Bioptimizers. They have all 7 forms of magnesium. It's about $5 to $10 more than one that has 1 form of magnesium. And the source of that magnesium is not very good. So it's like, well, so you're saving $5, but you're not really getting, just like you said, you're not really getting what you actually want. And it's the same thing with mushrooms, that people can say, oh, this one's cheaper, so I'm going to go with that. Not that yours are even expensive. They're very affordable. So it's just interesting how, people look at food, they look at supplements like they look at gasoline. You look for the cheapest gasoline because gasoline is all the same. All right, well, that's fair, but, food isn't the same. One, there's different levels of quality, there's different portions of what it's coming into. And, I always say to people, it's like, look, you can get vitamin C. You can get a vitamin C bottle. But depending on which brand you're getting, those are 2 completely different vitamin C's. One could be from a non-organic, chemical-filled garbage food, what if we want to even call it a food, frankenfood. And then the other one could be coming from an organic, biodynamic farm. And those are night and day. There's not even a comparison. And that's what I feel with Mushroom Revival that I really appreciate is, 1, you're practitioners of what you talk about. And 2, I shared this story on a previous podcast. The first day I met Alex was in college. I think it was 2014. I think it was our intro to mycology class. And he comes in with a basket full of mushrooms. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, what is he about? And he starts to go, oh, this is good for this, this is good for this. And that was really like, I kind of briefly heard of them, mushrooms before. I tried some like cordyceps synthesis. I think that's a popular.
Sinensis? Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried those before and I definitely felt some results. And I was kind of just on the opening up to the mushrooms when we had met, and you came in with this basket full of mushrooms. And I was like, holy shit, there is so much I don't know. And it's kind of the whole, the more you know, the more you recognize you don't know. And so that was, the first day that I met you, I recognized this dude is legit. He cares about this type of stuff. And little did I know that all these years later, you'd be building this incredible brand and we'd be partnering together to support that message. So I just wanted to, first of all, congratulate you on seeing your dreams through, because not many people can do that. And also, holding true to the core of your values, which I think is an essential part of business moving forward. I think that, if you're not being authentic and you're not being real and true, we're moving past that. The internet has exposed a lot of people who are not being real and authentic. So I appreciate you staying true to your message and, continuing to serve the best you can.
Likewise. And I'm so excited that we've stayed in contact over the years, and, what a blessing, the 5 College Consortium and all the cool classes at UMass, and what a cool group of people as well. And yeah, what was the second class we had together? It was sustainable farming techniques or something. Man, I'm drawing a blank on the name.
Was it the agricultural leadership? Was it that one? Were you not on that one?
It was with Sarah.
Yes, it was with Sarah. Maybe it wasn't that one.
But it was like how to ergonomically use your body while farming.
It was Yoga for Farmers was the nickname.
Yeah.
No, it was actually called.
That sounds so Western Mass.
Such a great group of people. Like I looked forward to that class so much. It was funny because like it was in like this porcelain floor, fluorescent light room with like these chairs and everything. I'm like, would bring in these like hose and tools and stuff and like pretend that we're farming. It was funny. It was a trip. And that was like a lot of classes, there was an herbalism class with Chris Morano and like he brought in, it was like in the middle of winter. So he brought in potted plants to like sit with and meet
that was a
herbs and stuff.
A great day.
I mean, you got to be creative, and that's kind of where we're heading. And a lot of the changes that you're asking about in the beginning is we're going into a digital world. Like, look at us right now. I mean, it's amazing the technology that we can just, talk into a camera and a mic and like we're sitting in the same room together, and then share it with the entire world. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can have access to this, or most people can. And that's extraordinary. And so just with, the in-person contact shutting down, to be able to use these platforms, especially to live in the United States where it's more free, and to use our freedom of speech and to talk about whatever we want or mostly, and to distribute it throughout the cyber webs is awesome. It's like the mycelial web and exchanging the information between many beings. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be here where it's so much easier to spread information. There's a con to that. It's also easier to spread false information and wacky information. But, I can't even imagine way back in the day. I mean, you got to go town to town and just stand in the center of the town and just stand on a box and say, "Hey, people, mushrooms," and yeah, it's great to have access to all these tools to further put a spotlight on mushrooms.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, have you seen the Netflix thing called The Social Dilemma?
Half of it.
Yeah, we watched half of it, but it's nuts.
I just watched that last night, and I was like, I don't know if I can sleep right now. I was like, this is crazy. But it really does come down to is, we have the greatest opportunity before us. The internet is in my opinion, the best invention in human history. But it's all about how we use it. We can use it to, manipulate people, to influence people in a way that's capitalistic driven, or we can use it a way to connect people. Like you just said, we can sit here on opposite sides of the country. I could sit with someone in India today, which I think that's probably as far as I can go in a 180. And it's like, we could have a conversation, record that, and then within minutes, the whole world could see it, or we can do it live. And that is insane when we really think about it. Because I was born in 93, and in the Social Dilemma, it was basically saying, people that were born after 96, they were the first generation that had internet in middle school. So to me, I started getting into, social media stuff in mid to late high school. But it's crazy, kids that are born today, they know nothing else but social media. So I personally believe, we grew up in an incredible time that we were kind of on that transition. We were on the bubble of, little to no technology to all of a sudden the world is technology. And it really is just a matter of, can we harness this to use it for good? Or are we going to let it overtake us and consume us to the fact that we stopped going out to see people in real life? And it is really a great tool that I think that's also one thing I appreciate about what you're doing is you're not only using this as a business model, but you're also using it to educate people. And I think that people, there tends to be a sales stigma. It's like, oh, they're just trying to sell me something. It's like, no, they're actually really passionate about what they're doing. So they're sharing it with you. And not only that, they're also giving free education. And that's kind of the model I try to go by too is, share as much value as I can, but also need to make a living. And I'm sharing these things that pay me because they make me feel good and they make people around me feel good. And I think that it's really, I'm starting to ramble here. It's really about just, utilizing this tool how we best can.
Absolutely. And what a fun matrix we're in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't even think of anything else I'd rather be doing with my life, in terms of an occupation. I don't even consider it an occupation. It's my life. And
so
it happens to pay my bills at the same time, which is freaking amazing that happens. And, it's so much fun. And, going back to the YouTube video that we were talking about earlier, that was all free. I mean, we had a choice. We could have charged for that and, even patented it if we chose to and kept it from the world forever, only for our doing or whatever. But no, we want to share because we want more farmers. We want more people into it. We're not trying to make a quick buck. But if it can also pay our bills, that's great. And also give us resources that we can continue to spread the word of mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, great.
One thing you just said there, I think that is so key, but you kind of brushed over is you're not scared of competition. You're looking for collaboration. And I think that's also a big myth that we've been conditioned to believe that, life is about competition, survival of the fittest. But, when you really look at it, it's survival of those who collaborate and survival of those who work together. And I think the fact that you just said that so casually, but it's such a huge point that it's, if you are truly pursuing what you believe and you want to share your message, it's not about competition. It's about collaboration. How can we work together? Like you and I work together. How do we work together to spread this message that everybody wins? It doesn't have to be one person wins, one person loses. Like we were conditioned to believe with competition. It's about collaboration. How can we all win? And I think that's what the world is going towards.
Yeah, and I want to touch on when I was talking about the mycelium on grain and that sort of thing. I take a stance from it's out of love, and it's out of like, come on, we could do better. It's out of like, I just worried about the people that are just getting into mushrooms and they pay this great price tag and then they don't really feel it, or they feel it just a little bit and they're like, mushrooms or whatever. I'm like, oh no, like, I love a million mushroom companies to pop up and make like amazing medicine and like new testing technologies, new extraction technologies, new mushrooms that are new to the market and things like that, because it pushes everyone forward.
Right.
And
exactly like what's happening with cannabis. Because now you can buy cannabis for certain things. There's like 10 awesome varieties for a particular purpose. And like, I would love to see that with lion's mane. You pick the lion's mane for helping you with your nerve growth, or the one that helps you with your study tonight, the one that helps you prevent or support the prevention of Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that. Yeah, we're super passionate about just setting a standard. And that's another thing that we're excited to do, is just give people somewhat of a parameter to base a decision off of. So publishing the results for the beta glucans and making it normal to disclose that information, then it's going to prompt every other company to be like, okay, we got to include our beta glucan count too, just because, this company's doing it and the next and the next. And then you'll realize quickly that like the beta glucan count is low and it could be so much better.
Yeah. And you literally cannot cut corners.
Yeah.
Or like there's a spotlight. It's like, come on, like because the more you know, the more you don't know.
Right.
And that's beautiful. Like, oh my God. I think it was right after or right before we had our last interview, I went to China for the International Medicinal Mushroom Conference. And their mushroom industry over there is outstanding. Like like light years ahead of where we are in the United States. Unbelievable. The amount of research, the technology, we're like, I always say we're like dribbling babies and they're like PhD masterminds, but it's so true. And so I want to see that. I know that we can't do it alone. And so it's up to the collective to work together and that group over there, company group, individual, university, whatever, publishes this new thing or releases this new product, invention, discovery. And it's like, yes, hell yeah. This new movie, this new podcast, this new thing that's pushing mushrooms into the mainstream. I'm all for it as long as there is integrity. And I think, with cannabis, there's pros and cons. And just like the internet, as we were talking about before, it's like you also get the people like we saw with CBD and stuff. You see it in gas stations and you see like It's just varying levels to quality. And there's people that enter the space that, any space, and they just they're not the greatest people maybe, or like they don't have the greatest integrity, or they don't really care that much. So they'll make products that is half-assed and they'll cut corners and they'll say false things and these information gets spread and it kind of decreases the whole entire collective conscious. And so that's where it's like, oh, come on. Like, I'm all for whatever increases the collective conscious and whatever benefits the overall mission that we're all a part of. So whatever is a plus sign, I'm all for it. And I don't see you as a competition. unless it's friendly. Like I'm all for friendly competition of like,
Yeah.
oh, they did this thing, or like they're doing so well. Like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah. Like, sorry, excuse my French, but like it gives me more motivation of like, now let's do it. You know, like it gives me more fire to, but it's not like I'm not evil of like, oh, we gotta stab them in the back or something. It's all friendly because it's for a greater good, and it's not like we're drilling oil or like
No,
something, you know, we're like helping people. So it's like, oh, they're helping more people. Like
exactly. Their success is going right back to the core of our mission.
Right.
You know? So it's a beautiful thing. And yeah, I just really wanted to bring that up because that's the whole thing with open sourcing is like, why keep this to ourselves? It would be so much more productive for our mission of mushrooming the culture around mushroom, or like healing the world with mushrooms, like pushing this myco revolution in as fast as we can, because the world is a ticking time bomb right now and we need mushrooms now more than ever. It is unbelievably more productive to be excited, open sourced, and just like throwing quality and education at people for free. So
I love that.
yeah, definitely. And I'm excited to see that more people are doing it. There's all sorts of like mushroom startups that are coming up and providing free education, and it's awesome. Like now on the internet, you can learn a lot about mushrooms, like more than you could at a university, easy. So it's all exciting, and we love being a part of it.
Yeah, more and more celebrities. Kim Kardashian claims that she takes functional mushrooms. Reishi every day. Gwyneth Paltrow, big proponent. A lot of other actors and actresses and celebrities, and you know, it's growing to be a $50 billion industry in the next couple of years, and that was pre-COVID. And COVID really just, you know, put nitros in the back of that. The whole supplement better for you industry exploded because everyone's like, oh, I actually have to take care of myself, and no one is going to come in with a silver platter and you know, these vaccines are going to take a while or whatever it is. And so let's use the plants and mushrooms and supplements around us and kind of best practices, and let's eat healthier. And hopefully, you know, I definitely have gone through the cycles of our lockdown, but I think it's really an emphasis of, yeah, we got to take care of ourselves, and health is number one right now. So I think that is one pro of this weird time, is that, you know, it puts an emphasis on health, and hopefully in a good way.
So yeah, so one thing that I think that this time really showed us is, you know, there's an emphasis on healing the planet as well. We saw that during some of these lockdowns, things that we believe weren't possible in terms of planetary health, in terms of like smog going down, in terms of animals returning, we thought that wasn't possible, or we thought it would take 4 years, and we saw that happen in like 4 weeks. So with that being said, you know, wrapping up here, I want to know, you've talked a lot about planet health, and I want to know about Mushroom Revival's, what efforts are you taking to help heal the planet? And then my last question on top of that is, what is Mushroom Revival's mission?
So as far as the planet goes, I'm sure you know, and many other people who currently consume our products, we plant a tree for every product that we sell. So it's not just the order, it's like each individual tincture bottle that you buy, $1 goes to one tree planted. And we have a podcast with Diana Chaplin who goes into how that whole system works, and like when that dollar leaves and goes to them, what actually happens, and when and where does the tree get planted. So there's that, and we love that. We're excited about it. We're trying to off balance the packaging that we use. You know, we ship it in a cardboard box. But yeah, people are surprisingly not as interested or, you know, happy that we plant trees per product. Other things that we do, the cultivation tech was big. I mean, that was zero waste. Everything was reusable. So anybody who adopts this method can continue to use those materials indefinitely, which is massive because right now a lot of mushroom farms grow in plastic bags. And I mean, I get it. I've done it too. It's a tried and true way to grow mushrooms successfully. And there's nothing worse than getting a bunch of contamination, and then it's like all that work just went to waste. So bags are, they're foolproof, they're helpful, they're great, but we can do better as a society. We've been really mindful about where we source our packaging as well. Like when we were selling dried cordyceps, they were in compostable bags, and not the kind that breaks down into smaller pieces of plastic, but like truly made of vegetable material. So yeah, just those little steps. Of course, educating, having people on our show to talk about these things. Alex wrote a whole book on microremediation, and occasionally we'll talk to people who want to take microremediation into the academic space and just kind of be like, okay, here's what not to do, because this is a grassroots thing, and like so far hasn't really been proven to be a productive method at grassroots. Like you really got to take this to an industrial level. And how long did it take for you to realize that?
Oh, well, I mean, you can read the whole book for free. You can download it on our website. I started charging in the beginning, and then I was like, no, this information needs to be free. So the paper, the in-person, so to speak, version is out of print, but you can download the ebook for free.
Yeah, and those are the things that we do, and of course always looking for new ways to do better, like whether it be the ink that we choose to print our labels with, or we put things in glass so you can recycle the bottle that you get your product from.
One thing that, we're launching in a month, I don't know when this is going to post, but it is September 29th right now. So first week in November, we're going to launch the 4 new products. And before we used bubble wrap, and we tried a few different types of bubble wrap. We used one that was quote unquote biodegradable. And it was this form of plastic that had, I don't know if it was an enzyme or something, but it would break down. And we thought like, great, awesome. And then we did more research, and it would break down into microplastics. So it just make the problem faster. And maybe if it's in a controlled setting, then, other soil microorganisms can decompose those microplastics, and it won't get into the waterways. So maybe it is beneficial, but there is a chance where it is actually more harmful. So we switched to post-consumer recycled bubble wrap, and then we're like, we can't do this anymore. This plastic that people just throw away. So now we have cardboard cartons that the tinctures will just slide into. And I don't know why it took us so long to launch those, but those are going to be what our tincture bottles are going to sit in. So we're super excited about that. And it'll just be cardboard and paper.
Yeah, and our drop shipper ships in cardboard boxes, not the plastic wrapped ones that you commonly see, which is great.
Yeah. And we've planted over 33,000 trees so far, mostly in Madre de Dios, about like 5 hours north of Cusco in Peru. And it's a beautiful area. And that's where most of the trees are planted in the Amazon rainforest. And that's where I feel the most connection. But we planted in many, many, many countries all around the world. And we're super excited to keep up that process. And just recently, we've donated over $10,000 worth of herbal tinctures and powders to, Black community members who are in need of free herbal support without paying money, whether they lost their job or, whatever it is. So, working with communities as well, and the environment is more than just trees and dirt. It's the people as well, and the animals and all kingdoms coming together. So those are just some of the initiatives, but it's something that we're really passionate about, is being more than a supplement brand. It's coming back to that mission which you asked, and our mission is to really mushroom the culture around mushrooms and to really revive people's health with functional mushrooms. And that goes beyond people, but just making the world a better place.
Love it. Well, thank you both so much. Are there any announcements you'd like to share with people? Anything that people can go to if they want to learn more? Should they go to your website, social media? What's the next step for people?
If you type in Mushroom Revival on pretty much any social platform, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you can find our page. And www.mushroomrevival.com is our website. And you can check out our podcast, which we both co-host. It's called the Mushroom Revival Podcast. It's on all streaming services, and we're about to launch a video component to our podcast. Hence the setup,
Yeah.
which we're still changing, and this might change. We might move to a different room. We'll try a few different spots and see what works.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much for being here. For those of you interested in learning more about Alex and Lera, go to their podcast, go to their website, go to their social media. I'll drop some of those links in the description box here. And when you're ready to try some of the wonderful mushroom medicines that they've put together, you can go to mushroomrevival.com and use the code wholehealth, WHOLE health, and you'll save 15% on your order. So both of you, I'm so grateful that you're here. Lera, I'm so glad that you joined us in the podcast today. It was such a pleasure to hear your story, hear your contributions, and, it was really nice to have your energy here. So I want to thank you both. And
yeah, it was great to meet you officially. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, and thanks for everything you're doing. It's always great to see what you are up to, and keep at it.
For all our listeners, big fungal hug your way.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Much love.
Much love.
Talk to y'all soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Whole Health with Rob Carney podcast with our Mushroom Revival guests, Alex, Dorr, and Lera. So you can learn more about Mushroom Revival at mushroomrevival.com, as well as on their social media at Mushroom Revival on Instagram. They're on Facebook. They've got their own podcast. I would love for you to check out their stuff. They're doing so many great things. And as I mentioned in this podcast, I've known Alex for probably about 6-7 years, and he is a great guy. He truly intends well for the world, for the people, for the planet, for everything that's going on in our existence. So if you go to mushroomrevival.com, you want to get some of their products, you want to plant one tree for every product that you buy, you can use the discount code wholehealth to save 15% on your order. And every time you go back there, use the discount code wholehealth. It'll save 15% every time you order. And if you're interested in any of the superfoods or any of the other biohacking gear that I work with, you can find that at wholehealthconnects.com, along with my coaching, my ebooks, the podcast for other episodes, all that fun stuff, wholehealthconnects.com. Feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram at wholehealthconnections, all one word. And, I love chatting with people. I love hearing your feedback. I love to know what guests you're liking, what guests you really take away from. I heard a lot of great feedback from the last podcast I did with Alex. So I'd love to know, what'd you learn here? What was your favorite part? What other guests you'd like to see? So, as I said, feel free, shoot me a message, Whole Health Connections on Instagram. To get the products from Alex and Lera at Mushroom Revival, go to mushroomrevival.com. Use the discount code WHOLEHEALTH to save 15%. And to find any and all of the superfoods that I work with, the different EMF blockers, the red light therapy, all the cool stuff that I've got going on, that I'm really on a mission to find the best on the market to share with you, and do so by giving you discounts. So you can find all that and much more at wholehealthconnects.com. That's wholehealthconnects.com. Thank you so much for your support. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon.